This is Maurice Jones-Drew, and you're listening to the What's Bruin Show.
You're listening to the What's Bruin Show, part of the What's Bruin Show network, with your hosts, Jake Berryfield and Mike Regalado, and occasionally some friends, talking all things UCLA sports. And now, it's time for the What's Bruin Show.
Well, hello, and welcome to What's Bruin. I am your host, Jake Berryfield, and I'm joined by nobody yet. Mike's going to be on in a minute on the phone. Hope you guys are doing well. It's 2025. What's Bruin Show? Still here for now. We are more punk rock than you. The What's Bruin Show
is more punk than you.
As of right now, that just means that, we're not connected to anybody. We're doing our own thing. And, you may or may not be listening, but that's all right. We're still talking. Mike had a show last week. He talked a lot about women's basketball and whatever. I labeled it Mike Talks About Stuff because I was all over the place, but I worked many days in a row, part of which was out in the on the fire lines doing that thing. Got 48 hours in a weekend, which is pretty rad for my checkbook, but pretty time consuming. But that's okay. That's what I signed up for, and happy to help. But I am back tonight, and I don't know how long tonight's show will be. I'm sure Mike wants to talk about UCLA women's basketball still being number one. UCLA, I think since the last time I was on the show, got a recruit from the Golden Bears again. I don't know why any Golden Bear receiver would want to come to UCLA, but yeah, suck it, Cal.
Suck it, Cal.
So maybe I'll get into that a little bit. And men's basketball actually is not sucking. They're playing good. Like, we head into the 2025 and we're all excited. And then they laid a few eggs in a row. But now it looks like they're bouncing back. So I'm sure Mikey will want to talk about that as well. But before we get that, it's What's Bruin Show, What's Bruin Show Network. Thank you for your support on Twitter at What's Bruin Show. What's Bruin Show at gmail.com is the email. You can follow on the Substack, what'sbruin.substack.com, or on the patreon.com/what'sbruinshow, or just what'sbruinshow.com, and you can support us at your whim if you wish. We do appreciate that, being this independent little punk rock pirate ship of a show. And you can also call the hotline, 805-399-4WBS. Second, Raina Troy. This is a downtime for the hotline for sure. I don't think there's any calls tonight. I'll double check maybe if I remember. But I need you guys to call at least like once every couple months or so, just so I don't forget to keep it alive, because obviously we want this around as we head into football season, because that's when most of the calls come. I'm just saying. But with that being said, let's get Mikey on the phone and get this show rolling. Okay, so joining us on the What's Bruin Hotline is my co-host. It's none other than Mike Regalado.
Big applause, Big Mike.
And
Iron Mike.
He is here with us tonight. Mikey, thanks for doing the show solo last week. And you said you're feeling under the weather. You feeling all right? You doing okay, dude?
I'm just like freaking run down. And I think I am getting something. And it's really weird because most of the listeners know that I work in education. And when you work in education, you get sick. I usually get sick somewhere between Thanksgiving and Christmas. And it's a big illness. I haven't gotten it yet. And I don't think this is it. But that sucker's coming. I can tell you that, Jake.
I hope you don't get sick, Mike. Yeah. No,
Me too.
Yeah, it's a bummer. It always sucks when you're like, I've been sick in a while, and all of a sudden you get struck down. But okay, good. You're tired, but you're not sick, and that's excellent. Here, I'll just let you talk about women's basketball first, since they're number one in the country and they deserve it the most. They won another game. They won a game against a ranked team. They won a game that was actually on a real TV station that was almost sort of just prior to like the opening to the NFL playoffs, right? It kind of was winding down as that first the NFC Championship game was starting.
Go Birds.
Yeah, go Birds. Just especially now against those stupid Chiefs. But the women's team beat Maryland, the number 8 Maryland Terps, the Lady Terps or whatever, 82-67. And when you look at the the game flow on this one, it's kind of funny. Like, yeah, Maryland's number 8 in the country, but the game flow sure looked like a lot of the other game flows the Bruins have played. Doesn't really matter who they're playing, does it, Mikey? They just come out and freaking dominate.
Yeah, and that was the thing last week. Touched upon it last week when I did the podcast late. UCLA had already played 2 out of their 3 East Coast road trip. The first game on Monday was in the Coretta Scott King Classic. I talked about that. They beat Baylor, who was number 25 at the time. Then they go to Rutgers, beat them 84-66. And then, yes, this past Sunday, one of the toughest games of the season, hands down. Or, unfortunately, it was not, because Maryland had a tough week. 6 days prior to that game, they found out that their second leading scorer, I believe, second or third leading scorer, was out with an ACL tear.
Oh, bummer.
They played in the Coretta. Yeah, they played in the Coretta Scott King Classic too, and they just got routed by Texas. And in that game, what's her name? Cheyenne Sellers. She was the number 2 scorer on the Maryland Terrapins women's basketball team. She smashed knees with another player, so she not only missed the next game against Ohio State, which they got beat down. She also missed the game against UCLA, and it kind of seemed like UCLA would have run away with it, which they eventually did. But Maryland, that is a tough team, and they gave them a hell of a run for at least 2.5 quarters. But Lauren Betts, actually, before I get into Lauren Betts, this is kind of weird. I kind of noticed this during the Penn State game. UCLA women's basketball has 3 phases. Number 1. Out of the starting gate real quick, just jump out to a big lead, first 5 minutes of the game. Somewhere around the middle of the first quarter, that's when phase 2 starts, where they have no idea where the basket is and how to shoot a basketball.
That's a bad
now, luckily,
phase.
Luckily, phase 2.
Would you call that the out of phase?
Oh, very nice. See, this is why this banter, Nancy wrote to me over the weekend.
Hi, Nancy. We love you, Nancy.
she was like, yeah, I get it too. The banter between the two of you. And I'm like, wait a minute, is this a slight? No, it wasn't. I didn't take it at that.
It's hard to do a show by yourself
at all. It is too, especially for 40 minutes. And it's a lot easier when you have someone to bounce those ideas off. And even if you might agree with me, or you might say I'm full of shit. Either way, we have stuff to talk about. Anyway. Phase 3 comes in about the second quarter, and that's when they just take it away. Same thing happened against Baylor, Rutgers, Maryland. All 3 phases happened. With Maryland, it lasted until like the third quarter is when phase 3 finally kicked in, and UCLA just started running away with it. But there was already something noticeable. First off, this was a week of records for UCLA. They beat Maryland 20-0. That is a program best. That is a Big Ten conference best to have a team at. I'm sorry. This is another one. UCLA was ranked number 1 again for the 10th week in a row. That is a first for the Big Ten conference. Back to that Maryland game. Lauren Betts scored a career high 33 points. Because of that, she was named. She was named Big Ten Player of the Week, and why not? Because she had one hell of a week. Just astounding what she did over that week. Like I said, 33 points against Maryland. She was also 14 of 15, Jake. She missed 1 shot.
That's pretty good.
7 rebounds, 4 blocks. Over the last 4 games, I think she has something like 27 blocks.
Mm-hmm.
So it's insane. Daimara can learn a lot from her. Also, just minutes, okay, maybe hours after that was announced, it was the McDonald's All-American team was announced, and her younger sister, Sienna Betts, UCLA commit, was named to the team.
Oh, wow.
Go Bruins.
the awards just kept coming for Betts, who was also named the AP Player of the Week. She was named the
Straight baller.
USBWA Ann Myers Player of the Week.
Oh, wow.
It's weird. Right now, the UCLA site is
Just a
frozen, so I
baller,
can't look
man.
at these freaking numbers. But Betts, I believe, averages 21 points a game. In these last 3 games, she averaged 27 points. I already said that she has something around like 26 or 27 blocks in the last 4 games. Insane. But she is just absolutely dominating right now.
What do you think about?
And it was funny because
oh, good.
I was just gonna say she kind of needed to in that Maryland game. Her and Kiki Rice, to a lesser extent, were the only ones carrying the Bruins in the first half. And yes, this was against a number 8, but shorthanded number 8 Maryland team.
Yeah.
The rest of the Bruins really have to step up. I mean, because it gets really tough. I want to get into the schedule in a second, but Jake, what were you going to say?
No, I was going to say, when she was winning all these awards this week and all that stuff, there was, we're very blessed with basketball players in the City of Angels, and right now, especially, certainly with the women's basketball players, and 2 of the best players in the country, or more than there's a bunch of the best players in the country playing in LA right now, but 2 of the tops are the 2 stars at UCLA and USC. So you got Betts, and then across town you got Juju. What is your, obviously I know that where we're going to side, but do you have a strong opinion one way or the other about why Betts would edge out Juju in one of those arguments for postseason awards, or not postseason awards, but like season long awards and things like that? Why would you go with Betts?
Because Juju, I think would get the nod for the better offensive player, but better all around player. You got to go with Betts because she's not only dominant in the paint, she's a rim protector. I already talked about how she blocks shots, but she also forces shots to be altered. She forces opponents to look outside rather than go in the paint. And she's quick too. For a 6'7" post, she runs the fast break. She could be a part of that, and she can also help out in slowing down defenses. She just could do everything, and no doubt, I think Juju Watkins is definitely up there, top 3 with Betts, and I actually think that's going to be even better next year when Betts is a senior and Juju Watkins is a junior. Damn. But I would say a little bit biased, but I think it's just founded in the fact that it's Betts' defense that would give her the edge in any national player, conference player of the year awards.
And obviously we're talking about 2 completely different players, right? Juju's a guard.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Kind of but she is, you talked about all around game. You could really say that about both players. It's just all around game for their positions, right? Betts is an offensive and defensive force, completely dominating at her position. But then you could say the same thing probably for Watkins, being that she's averaging more points, like you said, Mike. Obviously, shoots a lower percentage as a guard. She's taking much different shots. She has a 3-point percentage where Betts doesn't, and thank God, Betts doesn't shoot no 3-pointers. She doesn't have to. She just freaking dominates the inside so well. But across the board for a guard, Juju averaging six assists. Not 6 assists, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, and almost 3 steals and 2 blocks. I mean, that's pretty darn good too. But of course, we're going to say that it's Betts, and it's not It's not even in question. It's definitely the Bruin.
Go Bruins.
You know why? Because the Bruins are number 1 in the country, undefeated, and guess what? At least till they play
10
SC
weeks in a
again,
row.
they don't have to worry about that argument in SC's favor. So while the Bruins are on top, ties or anything even close to a tie should go to the big tall Bruin out there, right? And I think hopefully that's where we stay, and hopefully
best player on the best team.
Yeah, that she definitely wins that part of the argument, right? Because right now, they are the best team. So we'll have to see if that sticks as we're going through the season. But UCLA can certainly claim that right now, and that's a good thing. You want to talk about schedule?
So, Maryland
was
was
showdown with USC twice down the stretch. So that argument might get answered pretty emphatically one way or the other.
Well, especially in the next 2 weeks. Okay, so the game against Maryland both started and ended a trend. It ended the trend of the East Coast 3-game road trip. It now starts a trend of playing some really good Big Ten teams. And unfortunately, Minnesota, who was ranked last week, lost, and they received votes. They're just outside of the top 25.
Mike, I'm not feeling Minnesota anymore.
You're what?
I'm not feeling Minnesota anymore.
I don't know, dude. I don't know. These Big Ten teams are like nuts. I mean, you have Maryland, who was down 2 of their top 3 shooters, and they still hung around with UCLA for a while.
I'm so depressed right now.
So,
Mike didn't get my Soundgarden. He didn't get my Soundgarden / Keanu Reeves movie reference. F off, Mike.
I
should have been.
I
here.
did not. Wait, repeat it.
Feeling Minnesota. It's a freaking lyric from a Soundgarden song, and it's also a dumb movie. Anyway, sorry. Move on. Bad joke.
You're right.
Move on.
My private not my private Idaho. Yeah.
That's a different one.
Yeah. Anyway.
Sorry, I derailed you.
Feeling California. Yeah. Look at Minnesota. Yeah. So is that supposed to be an insult to Minnesota? Because Minnesota is a fine state. Anyway, so if Minnesota would have been ranked this week, that would be Maryland 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 out of the next 6 games. Well, it's now 4 out of the next 6 games are against ranked opponents. You have Minnesota on Sunday. The following Wednesday, Ohio State, number 8, who just beat Maryland. They are they're going to Pauley Pavilion.
Jeez.
Then UCLA goes up to Oregon, and Oregon's I wouldn't say they were having a down year. They're just not great.
I hear they don't even have
teeth. That's still
teeth.
at Oregon. They don't, not at all, and they have a better court. So there's that. But that's still going to be a tough game. Then they come back, and that's a week from this Sunday. The following Thursday at number 4 USC. Well, they're number 4 right now. And then the following Sunday against number 16 Michigan freaking State. And at that point, they have 4 games left against Illinois, at Iowa, at Wisconsin, and then they end everything against USC at Pauley Pavilion.
Go Bruins. And yeah,
this is going to be a tough effing stretch.
The last time I talked to you, they were heading into this stretch of playing top 25 teams, and so far, 2 of the 5 that was in the stretch that were in the stretch we're talking about have gone down in flames to the Bruins. But obviously, Maryland has to have an asterisk there, as you pointed out. They were shorthanded, but they kicked the crap out of Baylor. And like I said, now next
South Carolina.
Yeah, that was well before we talked. I'm talking about the stretch of the last couple games.
Total.
But like I said, they still have many tests left on the schedule.
One thing I forgot to say, and this is just a nutty stat that I dug into. UCLA is 6-0 against the top 25 this year. They are winning each one of those games by an average of, was it 18 points? It's insane. 18 points against the top 25.
Well, it's like we said, man. It is like we said. You look at the game flow on these things, and they all just look the same. It is a small difference at the beginning, and up in a wide difference at the end. And that's a good path to victory. For the Bruins, and
exactly.
Relatively stress free if you're a fan of this team. Yeah. All right.
And. It's just pretty freaking impressive what they're doing. And yet I see the type of game that they play, and I felt that they were going to beat Maryland just because Maryland was down. But if they had their 2 players who combined for 35 points, who knows how that game would have gone. But they're kind of like holding on. This game this Sunday, that's going to be a brutal game too. Minnesota is very good, and they are looking to get back into the top 25. Because I don't think it was last week, but the week before, that was the first time in, I think, over a decade. God, I should have had this information ready. I think it was over a decade since they had been ranked. And then Ohio State following that up. That is just freaking brutal. So now it's time to put up or shut up. I'm a little worried about their if they will come out of this unscathed, especially against Ohio State and USC. Those are two interesting games.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and how important is it that they come out unscathed? Is it really important? If they drop a game sometime between now and the end of the season, is it really that big of a deal other than just saying, oh, it's really cool that they're wire to wire number one undefeated? That would be cool. But,
Yeah.
Is it any sort of deal breaker? No, I don't think so, right? Like,
No.
it wouldn't be any major tragedy if they get taken out in one of these games by one of these other contenders, as long as they bounce back and keep on rolling. However,
Yeah.
they're undefeated right now. They've been beating teams, like you said, by an average of 18 points per game. So if that's the plan and the plan is working, well, let's just keep doing that and just do that all the way through the NCAA tournament too, and just win the whole dang thing, averaging with an 18-point margin of victory. We'll take that, right? That'd be pretty awesome. But still, if they do end up dropping a game, if they do end up dropping the number one ranking for whatever reason, as long as by the end of the season, they're playing somewhere in the neighborhood of how well they're playing, then they're going to be a very good team in the tournament. It seems like, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and if they drop a game, let's say even 2 games, and they're pretty close, because I can't see this UCLA team getting blown out by anybody. I'm sure that if they're going to play a good team, it'll go down to the wire if they lose. So one of the more important things is not only getting the number 1 seed in the Big Ten tournament, that's why it's vital to beat USC. They should also.
That's why it's one reason why it's vital to beat USC.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's also important to not just crap the bed, which this team is not going to do that. They're not built for that. They're built to work their butts off every single game. But I think even if they lose 1 or 2 by the end of the season, I think they're still a lock for a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament.
Well, there you go. All right. Well, Mike, before I hit the get to the chopper button, let's let's wrap up the women's and let's get to the men's. And that's good. I gave you 20 minutes of super fresh women's basketball talk.
I know. I could just talk, man. I can just talk.
So good.
Jake,
I hope you enjoyed it.
Jake, we're more punk rock than you.
More
or
punk
not
rock
you, but,
than you.
But the royal
What's Bruin Show
is more punk than you.
There you go. All right. What was that? Or men's basketball.
Yes.
All right, Mikey. So the last time we talked, men's basketball was spiraling. All right. They had just come off of another couple of losses to Maryland and Rutgers on the road. That was their 5th loss out of 6 games. The only win being the game that I attended at Intuit Dome versus Gonzaga, when we were all hot to trot and high flying heading into the next chunk of the Big Ten season. And then at Nebraska loss, Michigan loss, at Maryland loss, at Rutgers loss, and it was just all bad news all the time. Dylan Andrews, could barely throw a pea in the ocean. They had no defense from the big guys. Adem Mara was not playing at all, or not very much, and things done changed, right? That's kind of where we're at. They rolled off 4 in a row, starting with a just absolute massacre of the Iowa Hawkeyes, and then they have a big win against Wisconsin. 3 dogfights after that, pretty much, but against Wisconsin, especially number 18, they beat them, and then at Washington, and now just recently, a couple nights ago, at USC, they get over 82-76. All those games were close in the final minutes, but the Bruins pull it out, and this is behind. Well, actually, I'll ask you this, Mike. What do you think is what are the biggest reasons, in your opinion, for the turnaround and how they've been playing? Because they were playing pretty good heading into that bad stretch, and then that bad stretch is just brutal, and then now they're playing pretty good again.
I think it is a combination of Cronin's frustration. The players are feeling it and trying to understand that hey, even though it's not the end of the season, this is crunch time. They lost 4 in a row. They were not playing good on either side of the ball. And I think, Cronin's frustration and, I would say he kind of embarrassed himself with, that was just not good press. But, he was kind of right. Guys need to step up. But whether that should stay in the locker room or not, that's a different discussion. But this team has the word that I heard last night from Eric Daly Jr. and Sebastian Mack was confidence about multiple players, and it has just grown in that time. And that it's been growing, but it's kind of coming around in that the start of this 4-game win streak. Dylan Andrews in that game against Iowa, where UCLA won, what was it, 94-70, I believe it was.
Mm-hmm.
He came alive, and that was amazing because all of a sudden the offense flowed, and he has kind of been up and down, but mostly up in the next 3 games. That's what UCLA needs. They need their floor general to be assertive and to make sure that the offense flows. But I think more importantly is the fact that Cronin is finally playing a Daimara more than 5 minutes. You talked about how there was one game, I think it was against Wisconsin, where he didn't play at all. Or Iowa was. I can't remember.
It wasn't the Wisconsin game. He played the big minutes against Wisconsin.
Yeah. That's what it was. Because it was Maryland or Rutgers. I think it was Maryland where he didn't play at all. And it was like, well, what's going on? But yeah, you're right. Against Wisconsin, he had 21 points in 22 minutes. That's insane.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. And even though, and then against Washington, Tyler Bilodeau goes down. Dude, that him twisting his ankle kind of like almost made me retch. I was like, oh, that hurts. I feel that. So that, we're seeing more Mara in the Iowa and Wisconsin games. And then he's just forced into playing more minutes because Bilodeau did not. He tried to come back, and it was just apparent that he's just not doing. He wasn't going to be able to perform. Yeah. And then Bilodeau looked okay before the game, but he was questionable. And the Bruins didn't need him. Not that it was like, oh, we didn't need you. They could have obviously used his help, but the Bruins got the win against USC. And it's just incredible how much this team has altered, changed its shape a bit, if you will, with the ongoing presence of Mara. It's just really fun to see. He still kind of looks like kind of like a goofy little kid, but he just looks a bit more assertive. He knows what to do. Like, dude, he could seriously grab a rebound and just put it above his head and play keep away from defenders and, just toss it overhead. It's just really good to see that he still seems a little clumsy, bumbles a little bit, but he's a lot more sure of himself, especially in the way that he dunks, that he goes after shots and gets blocks. And the way he's grabbing rebounds, especially offensive. What was it? I think against Washington, he only had 5 total rebounds, or was it Wisconsin? I can't remember. There was one game where he only had 5 total rebounds, which personally for a 7'3" guy, that for me that's a little subpar, especially for the minutes that he played. But 4 of those were offensive rebounds, and that's something that you really need.
Yeah, you're talking the Wisconsin game. Ended with 4 offensive and 1 defensive. And it's not like he's like completely dominating the boards in any respect. He only had 7 against Washington, and then against SC, he ends up with he had 11 in that game. But yeah, I think to your point, he goes from playing relatively few minutes in a string of games to 21, 30, and 27 over 3 games, and it's like he's proving that he belongs out there, and that's pretty fun to see. That's the kind of the obvious change that we've seen in the last stretch, and probably the most impactful. But I think equally impactful is like when we were talking about this losing streak, we're talking about Dylan Andrews putting up games where he was like 1 for 28 or something over the course of like 3-4 games. It was dreadful. It was bad. It was unbelievably.
It felt like it. Yeah.
It was just unbelievably bad. I mean, he had, a 0 field goal percentage in a couple of these games. And it's not like he wasn't playing any minutes, so that's rough, but he's got it turned around too, to where, it's not like he is en fuego, super on fire, but he's doing enough to contribute as a guy that's out there playing minutes, between 20 and 30 minutes or even more, 34 against Wisconsin. And he certainly is a part of this in that he's putting in some points, double digits in 3 or 4 of those games and 9 points in the other one. And he's getting assists and he's doing some of the little stuff. So that's a huge key factor there too, I think. But just, do you think that this is going to be a sustainable thing going forward now that they're going to have a tough stretch themselves? They play 3 out of 4 ranked opponents in the next 4 games. And I guess only one of those is on the road. But do you think that this is going to be sustainable going forward? Or is this going to be a season where it's like they get hot and then they get cold and then they get hot and they get cold? I mean, they started off pretty well, but that bad stretch kind of took a lot of the starch out of the faithful opinions people have about this team, I think. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah.
Or is it righted and they're all good from here?
I wouldn't say like towards the end of the season that they've hopped on the train and they're going to cruise into the NCAA tournament. But after the Iowa game, I was like, oh, damn, they found some offense. What the hell? That's crazy. And then they did it. Then they went and got a gritty ass win against number 18 Wisconsin. That looked like that was going to be kind of a bit of a flop in the first half, and then they just figured out how to play. In the second half, especially this was pretty fun because that was the one where Mara got 21 points, and I think Sebastian Mack had 29 points. So what does that come out to? 42 points total. Guess how many points off the bench UCLA had in that game?
How many?
Exactly 42.
Oh.
They were the only 2 players off the bench who were the 2 highest scorers. They were the only players off the bench that scored, and that helped fuel that win.
Crazy.
So seeing that, I was like, okay, I think they have it figured out, especially with Sebastian Mack. Jake, do you have a drop for Mr. Mack there? Because he's been...
Here, you stepped over here. There he is. Who's the Mac?
Return of the Mac.
Oh yeah, I got that too.
We're
going. Who's the Mac?
He's been. I personally think that he should start. I'm not exactly sure what Cronin. What's he looking for? Maybe leadership in having Clark and. Well, I did complain about Dylan Andrews a few weeks ago, but he's kind of proven that he could have that spot. But Clark is kind of a mystery. Kobe Johnson is not producing a lot offensively, but he's a good defender, so I can see why he's starting. But if there's anyone that deserves a starting spot, I would say it's Mac, because he is.
Wait, what about Mara?
He's becoming. Yeah, good point, Mara.
So you're taking 2 guys out. You want to take 2 guys out of the lineup?
He's probably.
Or are you just saying, like what are
you doing? Because Daly's doing good. Okay, if we have a healthy Bilodeau, that's a tough one because Daly's doing really good. That's a tough call. I would definitely have Mara at the 5. Bilodeau's the top offensive player, but Daly is just he's kind of an all-around guy. I would kind of see how that lineup goes, where you have Andrews, Johnson, Bilodeau, and Daly at the forward, and Mara at the center spot.
Okay, so then you're still bringing Mac off the bench then.
God damn it! Yes, I am.
That's okay, Mike. That's why we're talking through.
This is a good problem actually.
That's right.
But he's been pretty ballsy. He looks really confident. He's starting to look like a stud. Still some mistakes here and there, but he's doing a lot better than what he did at the beginning of the season. But yeah, that's
on the starting.
Dude, we just hit it.
Yeah. Then the starting doesn't matter as much as like who's getting the lion's share of the minutes. So we're both saying that Mac needs to be getting, 20, 25 minutes in these games for sure. Who's playing, right?
Yeah. So as far as sustainability, I think they have it. They have players off the bench. They have different players that can start. So, from what we saw at Washington's always a weird environment for UCLA to play in, and so is USC. That place is cavernous and weird. Although, it's funny. Mick Cronin said, we got 2 road wins under our belt, which is essentially true. But that felt like a UCLA home game. There were so many UCLA fans at the Galen Center at that game. But hey, it's still a road win, and as far as I can tell, as far as what I feel, that they can have this sustained success. But now they really got to prove it with Oregon and Michigan State coming in over the next week. Whew.
So talking about the kind of the logjam with players that we want to see getting playing time and that are doing well, I think we both agree that Mara needs to be out there. I think we both agree on Mac. Lazar Stefanovic has had a weird season too, where he's averaged a ton of minutes in this season, but the last 4 games, the 4 wins they've had, he's topped out at 12 minutes in one of these games. Is there anything going on with Lazar at this point? Because I thought he was kind of a old reliable hand, as one of the veterans on the team. But he had a good game against SC in limited minutes. Came in and dropped 6 points only, but he was 2 for 3 and hit his free throws and all that stuff. But what's going on with Lazar, if you know?
I don't know. He had some good sustainability, but it also seems he's not very consistent. I actually vouched for him to be a starter a few weeks ago, but he hasn't really produced. But at the same time, he hasn't really gotten a good share of minutes. He's a good leader, but he's just not producing at the level he did last year. But again, at the same time, he's not playing the same amount of minutes. So at the very least, I hope that he's just someone he's reliable heading into the postseason. Screw that, heading into the rest of the regular season.
I don't
know.
I kind of hope he's the type of guy that, even if he's getting a little bit boxed out in minutes right now because the other guys are doing well, he's still a guy I feel like can come into the tournament and make a big play for you. And he's a veteran guy, so hopefully he doesn't have the problems with ego that maybe a younger player might have that's not as experienced.
Yeah, he doesn't seem like it.
He doesn't seem like it, right? And it seems like
no.
That's one of the advantages to having a good coach like Cronin is theoretically he's managing all his players, not just the ones that are getting playing time right now, but one of his jobs as a coach. And I think we all think Mick Cronin's a hell of a coach.
Mick Cronin's done a hell of a job this year.
Even if Mike might quibble now and again on some of his some of the way it's emoted, but I think that knowing the state of the UCLA basketball program, one of the things we can usually rely on is that these guys get better as they go on. And hopefully that means that some of these guys that maybe are on a lull in the run that they're getting, they'll still be able to contribute when it comes to like tournament time and all that stuff. You have any disagreement with that, Mikey?
No, not at all.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say really quickly that it just seems that Cronin needs to find the perfect lineups to match up against the teams they're going against, and they have to stay healthy as well. Yeah. And the guys just have to continue to produce. So if that happens, good things are ahead.
Yeah, very good. And if you look at the bracketology on ESPN right now, the Lunardi thing, it has them like at a 7 seed right now, which you'd hope that if, obviously they got knocked down a peg. We were looking for a higher seed a month ago, but now that, what's happened has happened. I think if, we just keep them in the top half of the bracket somehow, and hopefully get a decent draw, that would be the best chance for them to have some decent success in the tournament, right? And Cronin's certainly shown that he's capable of having a good run out of his different teams that he's had with the Bruins. So just don't crater and get totally boxed out, I think is the main important thing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, well, Mikey, let's there's just a little bit of football-y talk I guess we can get to, and then
I wanted to ask you,
we're already almost done.
I wanted to ask you your thoughts on what's been going on with football. God damn it, I keep trying to open up the UCLA sports site.
Yeah.
It's stuck. Oh, there it is. It's taking forever.
Football.
Okay, so we got the football talk, and Mikey, I kind of teased it at the top when I was starting the show, but UCLA got another player from the Golden Bears, and it was a receiver, don't you know? And I'm puzzled as to why, after the treatment we gave J. Michael Sturdivant, who has since moved on, why any Cal receiver would want to come down to us. But it turns out that it's just a matter of, incestuous coaching relationship type stuff. But neverthelesss, suck it, Cal.
Gross.
Suck it, Cal.
Yeah. And so what's the guy's? It was like Mikey Mitchell, right? Mikey. I have
The one that was today?
No, it was from a couple weeks ago. Today was Shane Rosenthal. He's a high school guy.
Yes.
Yeah. What is that guy's name? It's Mikey Matthews, and like I said, comes down from the Golden Bears. By way of, he was at Utah. He was at Utah his first year, then at Cal the second year, and now he's going to be a Bruin. And Bruin Report Online, your website, actually had a fun little YouTube video that had all of his Utah plays assembled consecutively. And what I can say about his freshman year is he got open on some short stuff quite a bit. I didn't see him break one tackle in like 30 catches, but that doesn't mean that he's not, a good little receiver. I didn't see any of his Cal clips at this point, and I don't have an independent recollection, even though I watched a lot of Cal football this year, of anything that made him stand out to me. But seems like a solid player, and came in. He wasn't rated in the transfer portal yet, but he was coming out of high school. He was a 3-star by the 24/7, but a 4-star composite, I want to say. And he was good enough to catch 300 to 400 yards in his freshman and sophomore seasons at 2 different universities. Utah certainly not known for its passing offense, and then Berkeley maybe a little bit more with Mendoza slinging around back there. Rest in peace, Megan's relationship with Fernando Mendoza set aside. But I think it's a good pickup for the Bruins, and it's just depth through the receiver where they lost a couple guys, so that's good. I'm glad that they got it, and I'm glad that they got him from the Golden Bears, because I can tell Jamaal and my daughter, screw Berkeley. Mikey, we don't have too much football to talk about, but what did you want to talk about?
I just wanted to ask you, because I went over, excuse me, last week I went over what the coaching staff was shaping up to be.
Right.
And there were 2, I believe. I'm trying to bring it up here. This site is still slow. But overall, it just seems that Deshaun Foster seems to have his coaching staff in place. And it didn't seem like this at first, but looking back at everything, it's a complete overhaul. A complete overhaul. What are your thoughts on some of the coaches? Do you see positivity? Obviously, we don't know what's going to happen. And I wanted to get your thoughts on the spring practice schedule. But what are your thoughts on how the coaching staff is shaping up to be?
I think the most important thing was they got rid of Fredo, who completely destroyed their offense last year. And anybody a trash can filled with dog shit would have been more productive than Fredo Bieniemy out there. Apparently, how he coordinated the offenses last season. So anything was an upgrade. And I think
do you really feel?
them taking a swing on Sunseri is absolutely a good thing. And the decisive energy they showed in doing it was definitely a great thing, as opposed to how they kind of died on the vine in the transition from Kelly to Foster last year, losing your defensive coordinator to the dickheads across town. Like, all that was fail. And certainly this UCLA football season was a season in which they kind of achieved what the national media and the Big Ten media thought they would achieve, which was not very much. But I think me and you, Mikey, think that they were solid underachievers based on what they were bringing back and what they could have done. And if were it not for the Fredo Bieniemy hire. So with that being said, I am most excited about the offensive coordinator hire. It's not like he's a proven commodity, but certainly has a nice pedigree, and it looks like it could pan out well. And at the very least, it's not re-upping on the failure that was the 2024 offensive season. So that's number one. As far as how they fill out the rest of the staff, I was thrilled that they kept the defensive coordinator, right? I think that was important. He showed that he's got, he's a big question mark heading into the season. And I think throughout the season, especially how he took a defense that lost a ton of dudes and wasn't playing poorly at the beginning of the season, but they were playing hard, but they were it seemed like they were outgunned. And by the end of the season, they weren't outgunned no more. Like, they were taking it to fools. And the only reason that this team failed was because of the offensive side. If the offense had brought their game, this defense was more than showing up for games and playing well. And that speaks to how well the defensive coordination was when it was a big question mark going into the season. And it's like, don't lose that 2 years in a row, right? In ways, the UCLA Bruin football program was very lucky in how that turned out. As far as like the defensive side of the ball. And once again, we're going to the next season and they lost a ton of dudes, right? And it's not like they lost the same dudes. They lost a bunch of different type of dudes this time, right? Last year, they lost an entire amazingly dominant defensive line. And now this year, they're losing a little bit of that, and they're losing a little bit in the middle, and they're losing a little bit on the back end. But even if this defense is a step back from where it was last year by the end, with retaining the coaches, the coordinator, I feel like it's still a defense that he can put together a defense that's game. And I think that's all you really want next year is put together a competitive defense again and see how good they can be by the end of the season. So a long answer to your question, Mike, is I like how the staff is rounding out. And if you ask me, who the guy is they hired as the running back coach, whatever. His name is AJ Stewart. Don't know too much about him. He's bounced around a little bit, and there we go. Right. We'll know when we know. We'll see. How the running backs perform. Who they're bringing back in. Our guy, your former frenemy that blocked everybody on Twitter, and now he came back, and I don't know if he unblocked everybody on Twitter. Who am I thinking of? The guy that 1 year in every spot.
Demetrius Martin.
Yeah, Martin. Yeah, me Martin. Certainly. He brought in like 11 quarterbacks and defensive backs, and that's good. Like, he's a recruiting guy, and that's good. And he seems to get along with Foster and the rest of his staff. So all those things, I don't think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, or correct me if you disagree with this, Mike, I can't think of a coaching move the Bruins have made in the offseason that I'm like shaking my head at going, oh, that's not good, or that's a downgrade, or that sucks. At the very least, they're all like, okay, that's at the very minimum a lateral move, and we're hoping that the Sinceri, even though we won't know until we see it, that could be a colossal upgrade. Now, what am I worried about next season? I wasn't worried about the talent drain going into last season. I'm worried about the talent drain going into this season. So it remains to be seen. We brought in a bunch of transfers.
Oh, totally.
Who knows if they can play? Who knows if they can or can't play? They might be ballers. They might not be. But it's a lot of moving parts to incorporate. And so that's where I'm at with the football season. I like the coaches. We'll see if they can turn this guys into a coherent unit on offense and defense. So,
Jake, they announced spring ball. I mean, I don't want to get your whole analysis of how the schedule is, but this looks pretty cool. 15 practices, 5 weeks, 3 per week. The first week, Saturday, it's going to be an open practice. They don't have an open practice again until 2 weeks later at Friday Night Lights, which I recommend to anybody who missed that last year. Check it out.
What day is that?
That was really fun. That was on Friday, April 18th.
That's this year's is Friday, April 18th.
This year. Yeah, okay. This year. Yeah. The following week, they have an open practice on Saturday, and then they switch things up as they are having their final practice, the spring showcase, on May 3rd, Saturday, May 3rd I screwed things up, Jake. Actually, Friday Night Lights, it was at Spalding Field. That's the one that's being switched up. Now it's at Drake Stadium.
Gotcha.
So that's going to be pretty cool. But spring showcase, once again, at the Rose Bowl. Obviously a glorified practice, but it's good to, get some football in our system in the middle of spring. So that will return to the Rose Bowl. Quick thoughts. No deep dive, just what are your thoughts?
I think it's a spring football schedule, and I think that I may be able to go to one or two of them. And other than that,
Deeper,
if I get
Jake.
to go, then that'll be fun. But like, what else is there? Like, we want to see what like the bare bones minimum that they're going to show, like as far as like what they're going to do offensively. Like that'll be interesting. But I imagine what it's going to look like. It's going to look like a conventional offense, not a dreadful pile of rotten milk in just dog crap bullshit that we saw under Fredo Bieniemy. You know, I might be a little biased in that opinion there. We didn't know that it's spring, but
are you?
I imagine it will just look like a conventional 21st century offense, and we're not going to know very much until they actually get into playing games. But it'll be fun to see exactly like what style it is and what the tempo is and all that stuff. So I'm looking forward to hearing those reports, because obviously once we get to spring football, and then it's over, it's a long wait until we get to all the hype and all that goes into the 2025 season. Months and months of just talking, and no watching. So that's what I'm looking forward to. I needed the break. You know, my batteries were completely discharged after this last season. I'm not saying that they're filled up yet, but as we go, they fill up gradually. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to spring just to get a little bit of more news. And then also the other thing about spring that I'm neglecting, Mike, it's probably the number one thing about the spring is how much more will the personnel change? Like, the X's and O's part of it, right? The incorporating these guys into a cohesive unit part of it, right? The X's and O's aren't going to matter if the right guys aren't there running around, catching the ball, making tackles and all that stuff. And so your questions about the who's actually going to be on the roster, that all gets kind of solved after spring again, right? Because there's going to be another window and people are going to be coming and going and all that stuff. So I look forward to that part of it. That's really what I'll be interested to see.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's a good point. But I'm interested to see how quickly, if at all, this squad can grasp this new offense. Because as you say, your Fredo Bieniemy was the bane of your existence from August to December to late November last year. And it was just the complication. And with I think anybody will be more simplistic than what Bieniemy did. But I think Sunseri, just from his as you said, his pedigree, and seeing the guys that are on the roster will make things easier. And one thing, I hope they make it a lot funner. And it's just, we can see how I'm hoping to see progress. That's what I'm basically getting to.
All I'm saying is that
and I think we can just, if it's simpler,
it's going to be simpler.
Fun,
There's no way it can't be. You know why? Because this is what the big giant warning bell, klaxon, alarm. Oh my God, this is going to be horrible. Air horn sirens and like the record scratch moment for me in the offseason last year was when it was absolutely echoing the year that Jim Mora got rid of Noel Mazzoni and installed Kenny Polamalu as the offensive coordinator. And then we all started hearing about how thick the playbook was and how, there's this how he's trying to install this offense that, is just so complicated. And, oh my gosh, these guys need a dolly to wheel their playbooks, to practice and all that stuff. Those were warning signs, and I said in the offseason, I said, if this is going to go wrong, it's going to go wrong because of this, and we nailed that right on the head. And I guarantee you that whatever offense Sunseri's running, it's going to be something that is more along the lines of a conventional 21st century college football offense, which means that all these dudes, for the most part, have been doing this their entire lives, playing football from their little, Pop Warner into high school, in all the camps, all the 7-on-7 stuff that they do. These guys, it will be familiar to these guys, and it's just a matter of the pace, the cadence, the sequencing that Sunseri has. That's really, I think, in my opinion, going to prove whether or not he's going to be a good offensive coordinator. It's that part, like the game management part, the feel for the game. That's where he's really got to prove it to me. As far as like putting together, a conventional college football offense, it's not rocket science, guys. It's really not. And you have to really, really try hard and overthink it to come up with what Fredo did last year. And damn if he did, right? So we're not there anymore, and I'm glad we're not there anymore. I'm glad that era is over, and I hope that the Bruins can bring the talent together enough. This new quarterback coming in, and the new players they brought in. I hope they're gamers enough to execute some of this stuff. but I don't think it's going to be anything. It's not going to be foreign concepts to them, right? It's going to be, they can just go play football like they've been playing football.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Mike. That's
I
good.
agree.
Dude, we've done a solid
Yeah.
hour now, and we're going to get to what's brewing with you because, why not? We've both been working a lot, and let's not, make this drag on any longer than these two. I'm ready to talk about what's brewing with you. How about you?
Let's do it.
What's brewing with you? You ask me. What's brewing with me? Yeah. What's brewing with you? What's brewing with me? What's brewing with you?
Mikey, you got what's brewing?
Yeah. Over Christmas, it was actually probably closer to Thanksgiving, I believe. I talk about all the time how the kids always ask me like, hey, what are shows you recommend or what are movies?
Sure.
Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you know what? Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I remember that was a funny show. I never really got into it.
Mm.
I saw the first season and I was like, oh, this is funny, but I just never got into it. This is the funniest effing show. One of the funniest effing shows. Sunny in Philadelphia is still my top show, but oh my God, just joke after joke, rapid fire jokes. It is just, I am just loving this. And it was funny because the kids didn't know that there was the continuation seasons that NBC picked up after Fox dropped the show. So it's weird because they're on two different streaming services. I think the first 4 are on Netflix and all 8 are on Peacock. So over Christmas, we discovered that the next 4 seasons and just got really into it. And it was funny because around Christmas or New Year's, when I went to my sister's, we had a family New Year's party. All of my sisters and family know about it. So we're just talking about it. I'm like, oh my God, this is the funniest show. So yeah, no, that's something that I'm just kind of like obsessing over lately. But I also went back. I was reminded of this other British show called Peep Show. I was talking to a friend about, and I started rewatching that.
With your kids?
No.
Doesn't sound
Oh
like
God,
that's
no.
a plan.
no, not so. That's the funny thing because you hear Peep Show and you're like, oh, what is it about? This is an interesting. Yeah, no, it's actually kind of naughty, kind of dirty. Those crazy Brits.
I love them.
But it's the perspective of every shot in this show. It is a comedy. It is funny. The storylines are great, but every camera angle is basically someone looking at someone else. So they do a good job of kind of like having conversational viewing perspectives.
Yeah.
And this is like 10 seasons of this. And like after a while, you just don't notice. You just get into it. And it's just a really
Is a half hour
brilliantly half hour.
Nice.
Half hour. And it's British. So every season is like 6 episodes.
Yeah.
Have I not told you about this, Jake?
I never heard of Peep Show.
Oh my God, get on this. It is hilarious.
Yeah, I will.
Okay. I will wait for your text from Peep Show, just like you do.
Yeah.
Your video text to me about like just random like, oh my God, how did they get away with this?
Yeah, I was doing that with Always Sunny
nonsense from Sunny in Philadelphia. But yeah, so yeah, the Birds one that was cool.
Mike, one of my favorite Twitter feeds now. Even I can't tell you how little I interact with Twitter. I don't interact with like Instagram at all. Or really, I'm really not social media active right now. I'm not like Bill and like I haven't deleted from my phone because I'm not a dipshit. But God,
but you're not an idiot like me.
God loves you, Bill. But yeah, I'm solidly between the two poles of Mike and Bill on social media, right? Like, but I haven't been very active recently. But I will tell you, when I do fire up the Twitter, one of my favorite feeds. Oh gosh, now I don't even know what the feed is. I can't think of it right now. But there's an Always Sunny feed, and it's like just so funny because they always it's just some. It's like from Charlie's perspective, and it's just something stupid.
Charlie quotes or something like that.
Like that. But I love it. So, anyways, yeah. Just as an aside.
Yeah.
So, yeah, sorry to derail you, Mike. You have anything else to say about your what's wrong with you?
Oh no, that's it. I mean, after the stupid fires that just kind of threw LA off its axis for a bit,
didn't they?
The kids are back. Fucking hell, dude. The
48 hours.
Kids are
baby.
back in school. Damn, the The kids are back
In
at
3 days.
school. Poppy's back in her games are back on. Violet's cheerleading for her high school basketball teams. So it's back to stress. It's all basketball right now.
That's
UCLA
fun.
women's basketball, men's basketball, and Maranatha basketball girls and boys teams. So
Very cool.
so yeah, it is busy time right now, and I cannot wait until March so that I can sleep. But Jake, what's brewing with you?
I want to just take a moment. This is my whole what's brewing. Briefly. As I referenced earlier, I did end up working. I was like 13 or 14 consecutive days, which is not that big of a deal. There's plenty of firefighters and plenty of cops that are out on patrol that are grinding it way harder than I can even claim to. So I'm not saying that, and I want to thank all the dudes out there that got deployed much more than I did. But still, not the first weekend, but the second weekend, I got sent out. And over 3 days, I did, like I said, 48 hours out in Altadena and a sprinkling of the Palisades and stuff, and just going out there and seeing the devastation that the fires dealt. Some of these places driving through, like I've never been into a war zone, thankfully, but that's
It's
what it felt
nuts,
like
right?
driving through some of these neighborhoods and just completely decimated. And it didn't look like a fire, it looked like a bomb went off or something. That is like one of my favorite things of all time is the Fallout series. And seriously, like wandering around some of these neighborhoods, it was as if I were in Fallout, like, some of the damage that was done. So, my heart goes out there where you lost anything in any of these fires. And, please, if you have any way to help support them or give them any positive vibes, do that. But with that being said, most of my what's brewing is that I want to humbly thank the Apple right now, because they saved my butt today in a big way. And I'll play my favorite Apple related clip.
How bad is it? Be honest. This Windows
Google
Vista,
Maps bad.
It's not iPhone 4 bad, is it? Don't tell me this is Zoom bad.
Sorry. Apple Maps bad.
And I will say, nowadays, like Apple Maps has displaced my Google Maps, believe it or not. I just kind of like the interface better now, although Google Maps is still very, 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 very usable. But that's not where I'm going with this. I'm going with this with the feature that has been introduced in the last couple of years, and that is the unsend text feature. Mike, are you familiar with the unsend text feature?
No.
Okay, well, if you send a text to somebody with an iPhone, you can unsend the text if you send it. And
yes.
Have you ever been in
I'm
the position
familiar
where
with
you send a text and you're like, I just sent this to the wrong person? And now all of a
that. Like,
sudden,
oh, stupid, no.
yeah.
Or you just send a
I
stupid
literally
text and you're like, nope.
I like to stand by my word, so I'm not unsending a lot of text. But this came in very handy today, in which I sent a relatively secret text to someone in a work-related issue to the person that it absolutely did not need to see this text. It was like, OMG. And by the way, part of this is, I was suffering a little bit from the sin and pride and a little bit of the sin of gossipness. And I was able to skate through because of the Apple saviors today, and I didn't deserve to be saved. I deserve to be made a fool of. I deserve to be, to have to crawl on my hands and knees and prostrate myself in front of the person that I would have been sending some serious offense to. But no, I was saved by the Apple, and I want to thank the makers of that particular Apple feature, because I will try to be a better person and not. I generally. Obviously I talk shit to you and Bill, but when I do that, it's on the air to your face, right? I try not to be a gossipy person about anything else.
That's what
but
it is.
I couldn't help myself today in one particular respect, and it almost bit me right in the butt. And so I'm glad it did not. And so that is my what's brewing. So just be careful with how loose you get with your texts, and try to be a good person. Try not to be petty. Try not to be mean. And just go with that. So that we're all trying to be better all the time, just a little bit. And that was
a little petty.
That was my lesson.
Be a little
of the
petty.
day. Oh yeah, fuck Eric Bieniemy. That piece of garbage. Unemployable, in my opinion. Fredo Bieniemy. But
Bring it down.
Yeah. All right, Mikey. Well, that was fun. We will be back, I'm sure, probably next week, and we'll see what happens with the basketball teams. Not a whole lot going on with the other teams right now. But yeah, Mike, do you have anything else to say before we sign off?
That's it. That's it.
All right, good. Well, thank you for listening and support the show if you would. We appreciate your support. And until next time, I guess, go Bruins.
Good evening.
Smoke 'em if you got 'em.
That was the What's Bruin Show.
Try us tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel.
It's got to be in or out, Mom. In or out. Well, I need the door closed.
Thank you for your cooperation.
Dude, brah, we play some ball on the West Coast.
The final word is boob.